Famously in football, the fans have been known as the 12th player. The atmosphere that they create typically has a massive influence on the game. And if there's any club with a 12th player, it has got to be Dulwich Hamlet.
And it's in the back of the net. The ball came in for the silver flag. Danny Mills. Puts it. Danny Mills beats the keeper to it.
We're probably one of the best supported non-league clubs up and down the country, and it's just a fantastic place of work. And everybody here, like it says on our main stand, in our house, we are all equal.
A lot of what the club stands for is rooted in kind of more progressive ideas, you'd say, that maybe is not reflected in a lot of other clubs. And I think having that progressive mindset is so different, and it allows people to be themselves while they're here.
And then there's not many clubs that can match this, I'll be honest with you. There's not many clubs in the Football League that can match this. We average over 3,300 a week. If we was to have a stadium for 5, 6, 7, 8, even 10,000, I'm pretty sure we would fill it.
I've always had a second club, and my second club while growing up was the nearest club to where I lived, which was Oldham. When I came to London, that Oldham interest passed away, and I always felt there was a bit of a gap. Never really thought of Dulwich until my friend introduced me here. And very quickly, it filled that gap and became my other club.
I'm on the board of the Supporters Trust. I'm involved in lots of different things throughout that process, whether it's making merch, liaising with the fans to make sure any of their concerns are addressed. Keeps me very busy.
I guess the simplest thing to say is that we attempt to represent the supporter base and the community in all respects, and that we do things that we think are good for the supporters. That might go from little things like the way things are set up on a match day, or it might mean intermediate things, if you like, such as running the shop, which we do. And we've gone from having obviously enough no shares when we were founded and being given a very small number by some initial members to a point where now we own over a third of the club.
I was a part of the team before we were Dulwich, and we were performing really, really well. We were kind of overperforming what we kind of expected to. We really wanted to have a bit of a better support and infrastructure. So we had meetings with the club, so Ben Clasper and then Tom at the time, and proposed doing a merger.
I think it's really nice that there are these kinds of efforts locally where, you know, the club is putting as much effort into the women's team as they are the men's.
First time I came to see the women was last year for the FA Cup first round match. Coming to the women's is more like it was when I was first going to the men's. Like more singing.
Originally, you know, when we were playing at Clapham or kind of in these community fields, it was friends, family, dogs that would come and join us. And now there's still lots of dogs, which is awesome. But having a much, much larger fan base is amazing. Like, it's pure support from everybody. You don't really hear people in the crowd like groaning or swearing or anything like that. So it's never negative.
I see everything on social, the way that they really put a lot of effort into how the women's team is marketed, how they bring these games to fore. I mean, there was a game in the middle of the week that got loads and loads of people attending, and for a women's game that's hard to do even at the top levels. So for it to happen here is really interesting.
And I think it's so representative of the values of Dulwich, of the progressiveness of this club. To have such a sensational women's side is like, it truly represents everything that Dulwich Hamlet is.
The ground was sold to a property developer called Meadow, who wanted to build a housing development, or largely housing development, on this site. And then later were persuaded, if they did that, to build a new ground for the club. And I think they hadn't really understood what they'd taken on, because they probably didn't understand the value of this club to its community. Really is a community asset in the same way as a building might be.
But I think just to shift it so close, not only would it take a long time and a lot of effort, but it also at face value does seem a bit pointless.
Previous owners had thought they were making the right decision, selling off the ground with the promise of a new stadium coming in the meantime. Meadow, when they found out that they weren't getting approval to build those housing units, decided to hold the club as a ransom against Suffolk Council and kicked us out, even tried trademarking our name and not letting us play as Dulwich Hamlet. We ended up playing our games over at Tooting, which, while geographically close, takes an hour and a half to get there, so it wasn't ideal in any way.
And Hamlet got into the playoff final, so we finally had a home playoff final, and it was at Tooting and Mitchel.
Well, the original idea was we move on without Meadow, we get the whole situation over with, which unfortunately we didn't get to happen. However, what did happen was we were promoted for the first time as a club to the National League South.
I mean, there was so much going on in that season, and for them to get promoted, being locked out of the ground was just amazing. It was just an amazing journey.
It gave us an opportunity to forget about Meadow for a moment and truly support and celebrate something that we desired for so many years. Without the whole Meadow situation, with the promotion, it's one of the great moments to remember as a Hamlet fan, I'd say.
It was really galvanising for the more activist side of the club, I'd say.
If that isn't enough representation for you for how important it is for the community, then I don't know what is.
It was a big moment where everyone took the opportunity to stand against something bigger than football.
But we ended up with Dulwich Hamlet being talked about in Parliament, marches with thousands of people on them.
And you put all those things together, because there are various different levels of community, and Dulwich became a much stronger thing than it had been, at least for the previous several decades. Well, COVID clearly had an impact on the club in the way it did on all clubs. Which means two things. First, it means there were more people being disadvantaged by not being able to do what they want to do on a Saturday afternoon. But secondly, when government compensation was paid for the fact that the grounds had to be closed but clubs were still asked to keep playing, it didn't work very nicely. It didn't actually matter anywhere near as much, because at the top level they still got the TV revenue. So although they also got compensation, much of their revenue was protected and continued. There was no TV revenue for Dulwich. So the government gave some money to the clubs at this level, but then it was distributed on a basis not based on the amount of revenue that those clubs had. So Dulwich didn't do as well out of it as some of our peers.
It was huge. It was like, everyone missed football. But the things we missed the most were like the community levels, and as I said, Dulwich is massive for the community. So you could just feel it in the air. There was a new wave of support.
And with this, I think with this new wave of support, it sort of brings us to the club that now we know today.
Yeah, for the future. So I'm actually retiring this year, but I'm hoping to be involved in the club from a board level. I'd love to have the ability to build out the infrastructure, to have connections with youth programs, and see little girls kind of go through the program at Dulwich and, you know, play however they want, whether that's high competitive, our level as we progress, or whether that's kind of in a community fashion.
It's just an amazing place, and if I could be here as long as I possibly can, I'd be very, very happy. You know, one of their previous managers was here for 13 years. If I get anything close to that, I've had a result.
Just the difference in fan here is you've got an irreverence, and it makes for a good day. It makes for a lovely club to be at.
Oh, Tom. So I'm not from the UK, obviously, but all of my friend groups, my soon-to-be wife are here, part of the team, so it's my home.
East Dulwich has become a different place, I think, from many London suburbs, in that it has an identity. It's not a loneliness, but different from many. It has an identity given in part by its high street, in part by the demographic of the people concerned, and Hamlet has become part of that, where previously it hadn't been. It was just a ground somewhere near Sainsbury's. But it's become much more than that, and the fact that people like the scarves in particular means that, as you will know, if you walk around East Dulwich, you frequently see people with the scarves on, and a little nod it passes between the people concerned when they've both got them on, and it's just nice.